Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. The time is 2:30, Celtic Park time that is, and we've just watched our fourth friendly of the pre-season, second of the American trip, the American tour, and it finished Celtic 4, Manchester City 3. Plenty of goals. It looked as though we had thrown it all away after a brilliant first half, and then at the end there, 67th minute of the game, Lewis Palmer scores the winning goal. Thank you, every single one of you, for joining us here. I know that it's late, 2:30 in the morning, but we do get people tuning in from all over the globe. So, where are you watching from, and what time of the day is it? I'm really keen to run through the performances, really, of that, because in the first half, I felt that there was a good, fluid rhythm to the Celtic side, some great passages of play. Going through the comments section at half time, everybody seemed really positive and happy and upbeat. But again, I did say that I don't like sometimes, at that stage to make the big raft of changes, and that's exactly what we did. And Manchester City got back into the game, they pulled it back to 3 each, and then it was a case of Celtic trying to step it up again, and we did that. It showed a good bit of character, the winning goal from Lewis Palmer. But we'll talk about the performance throughout, and I want as many of you to get involved in the chat as possible. What was the positives tonight, if any? What were the negatives as well? I don't want to start off with a negative. I'm going to start off with looking at that first half and the performance of Nicholas Kuhn. Now, again, we said there at half time, I think we mentioned it at the beginning of the game, in terms of wingers, it was a big issue last season, not just the position itself, but also how it affected the performances of Kyogo Furuhashi, the talismanic forward. Unfortunately, we didn't seem to have a first choice until Jamesy Forrest came back into the fray. He was the man trusted with the jersey, and he played a massive part, I've got to say, in Celtic securing the double. But, when you look at the amount of wingers that we brought in following the departure of Jota, so, we brought in Marco Tilio, and we also introduced Yang to the fray, and Palmer, and then later on in the season, in the January transfer window, Nicholas Kuhn came in. So you lose Jota, you bring in four wingers, and of course later on we also lost Abada, and there was a big question mark around probably all of those wingers that I had mentioned. So tonight we started off with Nicholas Kuhn. I was during the week talking about what I felt was the strongest Celtic 11, and the one position that was maybe the subject of debate was right wing, whereby I said Nicholas Kuhn got the jersey over Jamesy Forrest. But I was at pains to also point out that wasn't based on the form of last season, because Jamesy Forrest finished the season off really, really well. And if you were going to put it on form, it would be Jamesy's jersey. But I picked Nicholas Kuhn, and I had a sense that he could be a player that comes to the peak of his powers really this season after a difficult bedding in period of 6 months. And again, we always have to caveat this by saying it's a friendly, but that first 45 I thought were brilliant by Nicholas Kuhn. He was excellent, looked really sharp. The way that he cuts inside, he loves to cut inside, and the two finishes were excellent. And then, of course, he had the assist for Kyogo's goal as well. So a brilliant first half by Kuhn. I was disappointed that he was taken off at half time. And lots for the gaffer to think about on the right hand side. That's one of the positions that I felt we had to strengthen. But whilst you have everybody I've already mentioned still at the club, so where are we with the wingers now? So we've got Maida and Palmer. We've got Mikey Johnston, haven't we? Nicholas Kuhn, James Forrest, Yang. We've loaned out Tilio. So we've got 6 wingers at the club. Tilio is out on loan. And you think to yourself, well, it's good to have 3 players for every position, but is the quality really there? So my take on it was Maida is your first choice left winger, and Kuhn is your first choice right winger. Are we in the market to bring in another one? We shall wait and see. What's your thoughts after a 4-3 victory over the English champions? They are a pot one side in Champions League, albeit that wasn't their strongest side, but it wasn't our strongest side either. Kevin McKenna comes in. Good advert for the club. Good to see us hold our own for a change in these exhibition games. Palmer, Maeda, and Kuhn all looked miles sharper with the ball. Yeah, let's not forget, I thought Maeda had a great first half. He really did feed off the balls that were being played down that left wing by Matt O'Reilly and Rio Atati. I think he was very, very positive, but I'm going to run through every single player with regards to their performances and where it leaves us really at this stage of the pre-season. There's been so much frustration, hasn't there, around the lack of signings, the fact that we've brought in 2 goalkeepers and no outfield players, and I'm pretty sure there will be more business to be done. So once we've finished the US tour, and that will be concluded with a game against Chelsea, then we will have 1 week to prepare for the game against Kilmarnock. 1 week to get the bodies in the door. We're hearing that potentially Paulo Bernardo will be the next one in. We know that there was a bid made a few weeks back now, I think 3 weeks ago, for Adam Ida. Who else is coming in the door? Where do we need to strengthen? I said want to start off with a negative, but I think there's a couple of concerns around some of the performances, and we'll get to that. Thanks everybody for getting involved. Let us know how you enjoyed that game overall, and what you think has to change in the Celtic side. I think that when you look at, come on now, Colin Rodgers, don't do that to us. Looks like Mikey is a third striker. Well, he did play through the middle, didn't he? Had a couple of chances. I think the best one for him would have been, well, he had a one-on-one, but he also had a header. It was a great move, actually. Odin Holm done so well. And the ball comes out to Palmer. Good outside of the right boot ball by Palmer. And Mikey Johnston headed it wide. I don't know if you noticed, but just at the beginning of the second half, after Mikey came on, he tried a wee flick. It looked pretty lazy, and we lost possession cheaply. And he was berated by Brendan Rodgers. And he did that thing where you just run away and pretend you can't hear the gaffer shouting at you. Rodgers was not a happy camper. Mikey Johnston, we're here again. It's almost becoming an annual discussion point every single pre-season, whereby we think, do we keep him? Does he stay? Does he go? And he's been on my list of players that I think it's time to go for 2 pre-seasons in a row. I don't want to use this as an opportunity to have a dig at any of the Celtic players, but I just think we see a repeat of that type of performance time and time again from Mikey. He went down to West Brom and he seemed to be playing with a freedom and a good energy. And you think to yourself that there must have been interest, if not for a permanent move to West Brom, then other teams within that division who he played so well against. And I cannot see him being a staple of the Celtic side going into next season. Let me know your thoughts. So thanks everybody for getting involved in the comments. Andy Logan is talking about Sinisalo, who came on at half time for Kasper Schmeichel. He looks a good keeper in the making, very good with his feet and good agility. So yeah, absolutely. James Forrest, Tony Cassidy says, was brilliant again. He looks so sharp, Tony. There's been a few occasions tonight and in previous games where he's turned and left the defender for dead. And that speed of thought just turns it into an attack, doesn't it? And Sean Glacken comes in. Schmeichel and Sinisalo both look great, composed with the ball at their feet and good saves. What do you do with the goalies then? Let's start with Kasper Schmeichel. So he comes in after a really illustrious and successful football career. Obviously started off with tonight's opponents. He had his most successful spell at Leicester City, winning the league there. He won the FA Cup under Brendan Rodgers as Leicester City's #1. He has been a goalkeeper who was very active right up until we signed him. Unlike, and I've mentioned this before, Joe Hart. So when we signed Joe Hart for just over £1 million, he had played 10 competitive games of football the previous season. So he was out at grass. He had a point to prove to Joe, and I think he came in and proved it. And he had a bit of a swan song at the end of his career. We took him to our hearts and vice versa. Joe Hart left with a Celtic state of mind. But a really difficult goalkeeper to replace. So Schmeichel, Rodgers knew him, not only his ability, but also his mentality. to be able to, the personality to come into the dressing room and fit into the side that Brendan Rodgers knows so well. And he started his first game tonight against Manchester City, still the Danish #1 captain of the side. And I think in the first half, we've seen enough from Schmeichel to be pretty confident that we have a safe pair of hands at the back. He made a couple of really good saves. He was commanding. I've seen elements, as I say, the Foster. I've seen elements of Craig Gordon with the short stopping, and elements of even the Boruc, just with his body position going out, making his body big, very much like his old fella did back in the day at his peak. So I thought Schmeichel was excellent. Sine Salah comes in, concedes a couple of goals, but I do think that he performed pretty well. A couple of good saves, good with the ball at his feet, as has been pointed out by quite a few of the commenters. And then on the bench, of course, we've got Bain. I've already said, I think Bain, time for Bain to go. Promote one of the young guys up to number 3. You've got Siegrist, who it would appear is leaving the building this week as well. And I think it's one of the positions in the starting 11 and with all the backups that you're pretty happy with now. But that's only one position that we've sorted. You go into the rest of the defence, right back. Tony Cassidy, you're right. Pep still has not defeated Celtic. What I like about Pep Guardiola, there's been documentaries made about the guy, books written about him, all around, his methods, his techniques, his style of management, coaching, and he's not beating us, Tony, but he's very respectful of Celtic. He's always very, very respectful. So I do like that. Kasper Schmeichel, CSC, Ultra Wido. You've got a fan here. And Craig Hackett, I'm going to bring this in because we will get to the Mikey Johnston question. That not overplay, it was against the kids mainly. Okay. The defending was poor. MJ, he's run his race at Celtic. We have lost 8 goals in 4 games. That's a bad sign, if you ask me. Well, we've scored 8 goals in 2 games. So that was not so bad since we got to American soil, because let's not forget the first 2 games were very much a Celtic young team that went out. We had all these guys obviously not back from the Euros and the Copa America, and there was a lot of youngsters playing in the games against Ayr United and Queen's Park. Very much bounce games, can't read too much into them. Queen's Park 6-4. 10 goals. We then acclimatised with a game against DC United here in the States, and we win it comfortably. And then we follow that up by beating Man City. You can only beat what's in front of you. Mackenzie Coyle. Pep is winless for 3 games against Celtic. Was Kuhn voted man of the match? Well, he should have been. I'm not sure if it was announced, but he absolutely should have been, because his first half performance was electric. You thought he was brilliant. John McVeigh, hail to you, John. No seen you popping up in a while. What is that you're drinking? Is that a strawberry daiquiri from Thailand? 8:32 a.m. You're just up, and I'm pretty sure you're not having one of them for your breakfast. Always great to see you. Superb result. Delighted, says Francis Lester. Celtic follower simply says decent. Haaland wants to play for the Super Celtic. Big chap 77. We'll get to his goal. I know it's Haaland. I know he's a tremendous goal scorer. Did we do enough to stop him though? Here we go. Celt 88. The keeper from Aston Villa is brilliant with his feet. Absolutely right. Can't we just leave Mikey Johnston over there? Hail, hail. The thing with Mikey, guys that have trained with him, coached them, the managers that have worked with him, they've all said the same thing about Mikey Johnston, that in terms of natural ability, he is often cited as being the most naturally gifted player at the football club. Now, we don't see him on a day-to-day basis in training. I mentioned him last week. I was berated by a couple of the commenters saying, stop giving him a hard time. Here's where I am with Mikey Johnston, right? He has played 8 seasons in the first team at Celtic Football Club. Going into the next campaign, we are going into his 9th season as a first team Celtic player. Now, if you were to take up all the minutes that he's played for Celtic in that period, on average how many entire games of football he would have played at Celtic. Now, This isn't the appearances he's made. This is every minute that he's been on a park. If you were to then look at the equivalent 90-minute games, he averages 5 games a season. That is what Mikey Johnston has averaged as a Celtic player. Now, albeit he's been out on loan at Vitória Guimarães in Portugal for a season. He's been out on loan at West Bromwich Albion for half a season. I get it. But on average, if you take all the minutes over the 8 seasons he's been a first-team player at Celtic, he averages 5 games a season. Are you happy with that? I mean, based on that alone, it would suggest to me that it's time for the player to move on. And here we go, Tony Cassidy. Yes, Kuhn did assist Palmer, even though the commentator said it was Yang. Yang wasn't on the pitch. It was Kuhn who had that assist, and a very good assist it was as well. We will run through the rest of the team here. Ralston at right back. I thought Ralston was brilliant tonight. Now, people are going to say, Paul, you are a Ralston cheerleader. Aye, I am, absolutely. He's my favourite player. But he was excellent. I thought he really did play as if it was a cup final, never mind a friendly. He done some excellent sterling work defending down the right-hand side. I think he was unfairly criticised when he was at the Euros, often by a media that's pretty happy to stick the boot in when it comes to Celtic in any case. And he's come back and he is Mr. Dependable. He is a manager's dream, low maintenance type of player who might not play for a couple of months, but then he is thrown in and he always puts in 100%. I think you need more than that to be a Celtic player, but he is our backup. And when Johnston comes back in, Ralston will be the number 2. And I think what we have seen from this trip is a few guys who have shown us what they can do, younger players. And obviously we had Matty Anderson, who has gone out for a year on loan at Admira Wacker, one of the clubs that we have a partnership with. And you can tell that he has developed into a player who, let's be honest, if we were in a situation where there was a bit of an injury crisis and you had to bring in Anderson at left back, you know, you're getting to the point where you think the boy could do a job. Whether or not he's in the plans this season, I don't know. If he's not, he needs to go out for another year at a higher level than what he played last season with Admira Wacker, because you can tell that he's progressing, but you need to make sure that the handbrake doesn't go on with his progression. You can't have him as a squad player that plays 4 or 5 games. You need him to go out and play another 30 games of football competitively. I think he's really shown up well. And on the other side, seeing how we're talking about right backs, I think Donovan's done exactly the same. I think he's been excellent when you consider that the boy's 17 years of age. And I like the, looking at the Celtic side and having 2 top quality players for every position and then having a backup. And the backup, number 3, being someone who is a player that's coming through, somebody who is developing, not only a guy that has come through our own youth development structure, but maybe your third choice player could be somebody like Odin Holm, and we'll get to him because I thought he played really well as well. He has shown quite a lot signs over the piece, which makes me quite surprised at the comments that Brendan Rodgers made when he was talking about him and Boston Labo, who didn't feature tonight. Who really cares? Well, I'll tell you something, you guys do, because we've got about 900 of you tuning in tonight. And it is now 2:50 in the morning, 10 to 3 in the morning, and we've just watched Celtic giving Manchester City a 4-3 pumping. There you go. Big Casper was brilliant. Yes, he was. Stephen Kennedy, decent performance. Let's forget signing anyone. Right, I know that's tongue-in-cheek, Stephen, but at half-time on some of the Celtic chat groups that I'm in on the old WhatsApp, people were saying that, don't let any of this kind of thing make you complacent. We still need half a dozen players, and I think we do. Ian Roy doesn't think that Mikey Johnston cuts it. That was a good watch. Yes, it was. We're going to have to get to Mikey. We will get to Mikey. I've already told you my thoughts on him. And Jamesy was brilliant when he came in, says Eric and Baron. Thanks, everybody, for getting involved in the chat. Keep it coming. On the left-hand side, I thought Greg Taylor was quite quiet. Not in a bad way, just he wasn't as involved throughout the game. And I've made my kind of feelings clear. I basically regard Taylor on the same level as Ralston. I think that they guys are your backup. Alistair Johnston's already in the building. He's your first choice right back, and we need a first choice left back. Really enjoyed watching the game. It says girl on four wheels, 3-4-3. Absolutely. Yes, so did I. Absolutely. By the way, Shuggy, I don't actually agree that he's not very good. I think he's a bit of an enigma. I honestly do. I think he's talented. Everybody that's worked with him says that. He's worked under, who's he worked under now? So he got his debut um, under Brendan Rodgers first time round. He worked with Neil Lennon. He worked with Ange Postecoglou, and he's back working with Brendan Rodgers. When you've worked with 3 or 4 managers at Celtic, he worked with John Kennedy as well, of course. He must have something. He must have something. But as a fan watching these games and going by the figures that I gave you earlier on, who would you keep that gives you the equivalent of 5 full games of football a season? Nobody in any position. Neil Reid is watching in Ohio. It's 9:30 p.m. here. What's your plans now, Neil? You've watched the game. You're going to have a wee bite to eat. What is the crack over in Ohio? What do you do at 9:30 at night? Peter O'Neill. Excellent, fast and accurate passing in the first half. I thought it was really sharp. The transition from defence to attack was down to the fast and accurate passing of the midfield players, and notably Matt O'Reilly and Rio Hatate. We missed Maida, O'Reilly and Kuhn in the second half. Yeah, the dynamism of those players was definitely missed. Jamesy was brilliant though, and we're talking about Jamesy Forrest, of course. So yeah, absolutely delighted with the result here, and we're going to run through the rest of the team. So that's Tony Ralston and Greg Taylor. The 2 centre halves, how did they play? Stephen Welsh and Liam Scales. Right, Stephen Welsh made a tackle tonight, which was inch perfect. It was he took the ball from Grealish, and it had to be perfect, or he could have given away a costly foul. So Welsh played all right. I think Welsh is in the same category for me as the likes of Ralston and Taylor. I think he's a backup, and I also think Scales is a backup. Now, I'm going to go to the goal that equalised for Man City 3-3 Haaland back post. This was following a couple of good bits of defending, actually, by I think it was Tony Ralston. I think Scales has to do better at the back post. Doesn't matter that Haaland is one of the most sought-after players in European football. What happens with Scales is he's caught under the opponent's body, and he constantly is. He's off balance, and there's no chance. There's no chance he's going to put the opponent off. Never mind win the ball. We've seen it last season against lesser opposition. Aberdeen semi-final with the Scottish Cup twice. They got goals twice by targeting the exact same area, and it's a massive, massive issue for us. Now, even when you put in Schmeichel, who's a very dominant force in his box, I don't think that solves it, because he's not going to turn Liam Scales into someone who can defend across. Scales is going to be coming up against a lot lesser players than Haaland this season, but he has made the same mistakes time and time again. I think he's poor in that scenario. I don't want to be too negative about any of our guys tonight, but that was the performance for me of Scalesy. On one occasion, both Scales and Welsh lost the ball needlessly, and it resulted in Schmeichel having to make a couple of decent saves. We move into the midfield. McGregor makes his first start of this pre-season. He just clicks right back into place. He was doing a lot of the legwork and allowing O'Reilly and Hatate to be dynamic and creative, and they were doing that. I mean, there was one occasion where Hatate got the ball facing his own goal, dangerous position to get the ball, maybe 25 yards out, and he instinctively played the ball with his right foot right up the right wing, so across his body, right up the right wing, and he transitioned from defence to attack in one movement. Probably the only player on the park who could do it for Celtic. So we have missed that from Hatate. We didn't see enough of that type of performance from him last season. I understand it was a lot to do with the injuries that he sustained, but I thought he was excellent tonight, was Rio Hatate. And Matt O'Reilly, throughout the pre-season games, has been tremendous, and he was excellent tonight again. So the midfield gets brilliant pass marks from me. Kuhn was the man of the match, and by the way, I called it. I called it. And he was brilliant in the first half, and I'm hoping he can build on that. Gets the game time, the minutes under his belt against Chelsea, and then he's ready for the first game of the season against Kilmarnock. Gets a good start against Kelly and builds from there. At the moment, I'm quite happy with Kuhn on the right wing with Forrest behind him. Forrest came on, as Tony Cassidy said earlier, he came on, he looked really, really sharp. The way he's turning he doesn't look like he's 32 and coming to the kind of twilight of his career. He looks like someone who really does have a bounce about him. So, yeah, I think that Forrest being a backup, coming on, playing 20, 25 minutes most weeks, maybe getting a few starts, would work this season, if indeed Kuhn can keep this up. And again, I don't just think it's been the first half against Man City. I think that he showed signs during the other games, but it all came together for Kuhn today, and I hope he can build on it. On the left-hand side, Maeda. Let's not forget the performance of Maeda tonight. He was brilliant, as was Kyogo. Kyogo's link-up play was excellent. He obviously got the third goal, and he had a couple of chances. Maeda hit the post. Let's not forget he hit the post in the first half as well. So all round excellent. But then we made a raft of changes. What about the guys that came in? Lagerbielke came on. Didn't really get involved that much, did he? Palmer comes into the fray. Lagerbielke's on his way out, I think, and I don't think anybody will be surprised if and when that happens. Palmer came on and scored the winner. Now, he's a guy that I think has been criticised by many of our commenters, and by myself. I think that Palmer showed enough. If you look at his goals and assists last season, if you bring in a winger, it's going to be hard to replace those goals and assists that Palmer gave us last year. But he went off the boil and he lost his place in the team, deservingly so. He wasn't playing well enough. But what happened with Palmer, I think, tonight, he came on and I seen that he was helping out defensively. I think that he done really well for Anderson on a few occasions. He scores his goal. He put one right on a plate, very similar pass to the assist that he had last season against Aberdeen, where he put it right on O's head. This time round, he puts it on Mikey Johnston's head and it goes wide. So I think Palmer did pretty well. And again, I'm still going to say that Maeda's your first pick left winger with Palmer right behind him. And then Yang didn't get any minutes. I thought Holm was very good in that second half performance. There was a wee moment, of course, where he flicks the ball through and creates a brilliant chance. But he does look as though he's got something. And he was criticised by Brendan Rodgers, as was Lowell. Criticised? Maybe that's the wrong word. But he was definitely it was pointed out that he and Lowell have to do more. Kobayashi, a bit like Lagerbielke, was quiet, and I think those two players need to be moved on. Kwon. Here's the thing about Kwon. I've been pretty critical. He's on my list of guys that I would loan out for a season. But I thought he played pretty well tonight, and he got an assist for the winner as well. Awata, a wee bit quieter than he has been. He's a player that I do like. I think he's a good squad player. Anderson, massive kudos to the youngster Anderson. He's 20 years of age, and if he's not going to get much games for Celtic, they'll loan him out for a season. Lowell did not come on, neither did Murray. Forrest was excellent. Deddy didn't come on, but I've been impressed with him. Donovan, massive pass marks for Donovan, 17 years of age, and he's up against Manchester City, and that is going to help him improve massively. And then that just leaves us with Turley, who didn't get any minutes, and Mikey Johnston, who we've done a wee bit of talking about. Here we go. Right, Rugby, I know exactly what you mean here, because he was turned inside out, wasn't he, for one of the goals, Mikey Johnston? And I think it was maybe Manchester City's second goal, and he didn't do enough. He absolutely didn't do enough. But let's not forget, and I'm bringing Tony in to say this, let's not forget that there was lots of positives. Tony feels bad for all the negativity that's going to come Mikey Johnston's way. Much of it is deserved. I agree. Go easy on the young fella. Listen, I think that in a nutshell, Tony, that's where I am with Mikey Johnston. We know what he is good at. Can he do it in a Celtic jersey? That's the question. And if not, let's find him a club so that he can go away and enjoy his football elsewhere. I don't want it to be a pile-on. I really do want to to get through tonight and see the positives, particularly the first half. First half was brilliant. Just think back to half time and the comments that were coming in. Everybody was buzzing. And I hope that, Celtic, I hope that Kuhn starts to kick on this season as well. And I think, again, I go back to the fact that in the January transfer window, Brendan Rodgers undoubtedly had control of that, like he does now, because we didn't have a head of recruitment in January, and we still don't. And we brought in 2 players, one on loan. So Kuhn, a lot of people, I think, were criticising him. You could go back to some of the comments that were on our YouTube videos. He's shown signs this pre-season, particularly tonight, that there's a player in there, to use that cliche. Is he finally going to fulfil his potential? Because he has had opportunities at RB Salzburg and Ajax and Bayern Munich, and now he's at Celtic, having signed from Rapid Vienna. And I think it's time for him to step up, and hopefully he can do that. We absolutely all want every single Celtic player to do well, but it comes to a point sometimes where some players have to leave the club, and we need to bring in better, more quality. Acsom doesn't want to ridicule MJ. I mean, Seamus, that's absolutely not what we're going to do about any Celtic player. But as I say, there are some players who I don't think have got the quality to improve the Celtic side and for Celtic to progress. We sometimes have to replace players, as has always been the case from day one, as a Celtic supporter. And I think the time has come for players like Mikey Johnston, Gustav Lagerbielke, the UK Kobayashi, and a few others that they have to leave the building. You thank them for what they've done, they move on. All I'm going to say to you, Seamus, I'm not ridiculing them, but do you think you should have a player moving into their 9th season as a Celtic player who averages 5 full games a season? If you add up the minutes, I don't think it's effective personally. Right, thank you every single one of you for getting involved. 800 strong. It is now 3 o'clock in the morning. Get away to bed if you're on the same time zone as me. If not, enjoy whatever you're doing, and join us again tomorrow at 12:30 for a Celtic State of Mind.